about this topic because I have been in the forefront about this, and now I can't give out a lot of information because that's what I do workshops on, and it's basically part of my business. But I will give you some indication, and I talk a lot about the difference between signals and language and why people are using language and when dog training, and they should be thinking in signals. Dogs around the world know what another dog is giving them, how they're acting through signals. Those signals are universal to dogs. It's not as if a dog in Thailand can't understand a dog in Mexico because the signals are the same. They're universal. Now, when people train dogs, they use their maternal language generally. Some people, as some sort of snobbish or some reason, try to use a language that they don't speak. There are a lot of people who try to train French ring for the sport and try to use French. There are people who train in Schutzhund and IGP that use German, and they don't really speak German. Those are the primary languages that you find in sports. There, you don't find many people using other languages to talk to dogs, and they're really not talking. And that's the thing I got to get through. You're not talking to a dog. You're signaling to a dog. And I'm going to use, for example, I will illustrate what I'm talking about in one specific way, but this is just one little area, and I can't get into the details because like I said, this is proprietary. But there is a huge difference between looking at what you do as signals, and that's what it is, signals, and it is not a language. Dogs don't have a language. Humans use language too much. They concentrate on that. If you've ever been and you do not speak the language that they speak, and you have no intermediary way to, which would be a pidgin language or a lingua franca, it's very difficult, right? Yeah, because you over-rely on language, and this is something that people do. And especially, I know several languages, so I can point out that, but since I'm speaking English to you right now, there are a lot of things people do wrong with English. They use what are idioms, for one thing. Their super segmental things change, which is why when people say, hey, the dog doesn't understand me, they understand someone else, because everything you say is phonotactically and in frequency is very important to a dog. It's a difference between seeing a pink light and a red light. What's the difference to you at a stop sign, stoplight? Is it red? What does that mean to you? And that is a signal. That is a clear signal. What does green mean to you? Now, what does pink mean to you? What does a blue-green mean to you? See that? There's confusion already. And what if you had Christmas lights going off all the time around you? What does that do? That is called signal interference. And this is what, looking at this from a linguist point of view and from a sound engineer's point of view, or radio communications, where you talk about signal noise versus signal clarity. And the reception of the signal must be unique, must be clear, it must be in a frequency range that is not muddled up and filled with a bunch of background noise. White noise is one case of that, or just background information. It's not really information to a dog, but that's why the constant speaking and saying the same language that the dog hears all the time, and you want this dog to respond to you is incorrect. Now, let me point out something that I want to. This is a very brief part again, but this should be very salient to those of you who can pick up on this. In markers, and I don't use the term marker because the semantics have been muddled in my way of teaching methodology. I use different words because the semantics have not been corrupted by quite a few hackneyed practitioners. So markers are indicators, I call them indicators, of a situation. You'll have people who don't want to use a clicker, don't want to use a whistle, which is what was used. Clickers go back to the 1940s, actually. It wasn't Karen Pryor who discovered clickers. And I know there are a whole lot of people who call themselves clicker trainers, and that's because of their ideology. There's a lot of people who have an ideology about training, and they stick to that instead of using what will work, what's the most productive and efficient. But that takes me to a different video that I will make. So one of the things in the markers, you find people using quite a bit, and it's not just Michael Ellis who started this, but he's one of the people who is a huge proponent of this. And they use the word yes, or they use the word good. They have one is a keep going marker, which is I will not break down all this to everyone else, but they'll use yes and good. But they will take the word yes, and he'll say yes, yes, like this, or good, good. Okay. Now, he says even, that it doesn't matter about these words. It could be anything. But why are they choosing yes and good? Because they're talking to themselves. They are talking to themselves. They want to put this out So you can hear my KNPV demon in the background there. Anyway, let me try to finish this. But using yes and good shouldn't be. Why are you doing it? Because it makes sense to you semantically. It means something to you. It means yes to you. Yeah, hi, chai, but. I can use a lot of different languages. We, see, and many different languages. It has a semantic because it's been associated and it means something to you linguistically, but dogs are not using that. They're using just a signal. Why are you using this? And the thing is, no matter what, this word is used in an English milieu environment, in the Umwelt, it's used too much. Yes, it's still yes. And why are you using good? Why are you using that? Because also it makes sense to the person who's speaking it. They're saying it to themselves as an ego gratification to other people around them. They're gravitating to something that's easy. However, that is not what you should be doing. You should be using signals that are clear, that are distinctive, that are not heard in the environment. If you're in an English-speaking environment, you should not be using English whatsoever. And that leads me to my proprietary constructed signal system, which is phonotactically and phonologically created. And now, why don't other people do this? There's some people who have talked about it in the past, but they don't have the skills because they're not a linguist. And that's the thing about being in dog training since 1974 and going forward and then becoming a academic linguist published. So I have skills that other people don't know about, and I'm in an area. Now, this is as important as clearing up how you use respondent and operant conditioning. And if you don't know what those are, I have made a video that explains operant conditioning more clearly than anyone has ever done it, because it's confusing to people because they confuse what a positive reinforcement and negative. They're using it moralistically. They think the negative is moralistic and the good is moralistic. It is not. And the same thing with punishment. Negative punishment and positive punishment. They're hearing punishment, so they think it's wrong morally. They don't understand what it really means. And I've seen a lot of people making money from training dogs who don't clearly understand operant or respondent conditioning. And respondent conditioning, classical, is also more important than what a lot of people want to give credit to. It's other people won't tell you that, but that's out there. Anyway, I want to make this clear, cohesive for you to understand. So if you are using a system of signals where that is heard, they're not signals to you, it's a language, and that language is being spoken in the milieu, the environment around you, it's already added to signal background noise. And it's not as clear as it could be. You should be learning, also, you should be pushing yourself out. You're supposed to be the primate with the frontal cortex, with the Wernicke's and the Broca areas that do not exist in dogs to understand language. You should be also meeting the dog halfway, at least, instead of forcing your maternal language that you don't understand, you can't analyze it, and you don't know what you're doing. It just makes sense to you that you should be using clearer signals. Now, I do train dogs in several different languages for people who want to train. I trained in Spanish, French, English, German, Slovak, Czech. They're 95% mutually intelligible. And I do that for people as a code. A code is better, and you need a code because then your dog knows who's speaking to him, who's giving the signal. Only the people understand that code, and that's the same reason why we use it in the military. But beyond that, besides using a language that is not in the environment that you're living in, I have created a proprietary code signal system, and that is created to have the clearest signal reception and the clearest understanding, and that's because of phonological rules and phonotactics. Now, that's all I can say about that. If you're more interested in it further, you can take workshops with me. I offer that as a different service. It has helped dogs as much as being clear on your operant and respondent conditioning abilities. So I want to add that. So this is an area that other people have not gotten into because they really just don't have that background. They don't have that linguistics background. They don't know several languages as an adult. What they do know is their maternal language, and they throw it out there. Things like leave it. Why are you saying leave it? Why? Because it makes sense to you. There's a lot of reasons why that's wrong, but you can learn why in a workshop. I will not go further. But I just want to say the signal clarity is something where I differ completely. My signals are clearer. And you're not using a language, you're using signals. You cannot construct a language through signals. Now, I can mess you up very easily by taking apart your chained verbals, your phrasal verbs people in English want to use, lie down, sit down, get back, get down, get away, get out. Why are you using that? Because that's what you know in your language. So that's not clear to a dog. It is not. And I can mess you up very clearly, and I do it in workshops all the time.